Well, Shabbat Shalom.
So, because of the St. Peter's game tonight, people are like dropping like flies because of that. The St. Peter's game, March Madness. So there's been this like national upset that this little nothing school from Jersey City has made it into the Sweet 16 and has gone from something place into the top 16. So, and that's here, it's up the street. So all of Jersey City is home watching the game.
All right. So Seth, it'll be, give us a finger of how many people are on, so that we'll know if we actually have a minyan in the aggregate or not. If we don't have a minyan, we won't do Baruch Hu, and we'll do an abbreviated Mourner's Kaddish. Okay.
I'll check about 5 or 10 minutes.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes.
It's 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes to 8 now, right?
The line that we omit from the Kaddish is the Yehei Shmei Rabbah.
Huh?
Shabbat Shalom. Seth and Seth and Seth and Elia. Go Peacocks. And Shabbat Shalom to any and all on live stream. So we're praying for a Shabbat Shalom and a peacock win. We're the miracle on Kennedy Boulevard. We all are. So let's take a good breath. Feel any tension that we have hanging around, lingering in our jaw, our neck, or anywhere, forehead. Let it slide down into the floor. Create expansiveness. Feel our feet on the floor, our back against our chair, our weight on our seat. And know that for the next 25 hours, the world can get along without us. It'll be here when we get back, don't worry. But today, we can just be human beings. And, yeah, let's turn to page 3. Seth, can you offer us the reading on page 3? No, which Seth? Invite to the Bima, Seth Lieberman, board member extraordinaire, Jonah and Eli's dad. Shabbat Shalom. Peacock game. March Madness, St. Peter's. It's Sweet 16, but apparently St. Peter's is a real miracle. So, they're still in it. Game's at 7. That's what I hear. Tom said he would text me the results if it was still going on. Here? At the, thank you, Seth. Yeah, sure, I'll do it. You can face the front and I'll hold this for you, and whichever one you like, whichever one speaks to you, and then go ahead and light the candles.
Absolutely. Multitasking.
Read first.
Of course. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
May it be so. Thank you. Go ahead and light the candles. Don't burn yourself. It's a bad batch. Go ahead, light another match.
The matches or the candles?
I think
What's
it's the
that?
candles, but every night there's always something.
If we pre-light them, they might light again better. I don't know. Yes, this is the ultimate challenge. Third time at charm, and I don't know if you can.
No, Marion.
I'm just
can we not?
straightening this one out. I'm not sure if you can light just one candle. I think you have to have at least 2, but you can have more than 2.
All right. It's alive. Yes, thank you.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Yasher koach.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank bring in a little sweetness with Kiddush. Now, we may have expected that Gabe Kaminer would be leading us in Kiddush because tomorrow morning he will become bar mitzvah for the first time, being called to the Torah at 10:30. But he has a large Shabbat dinner planned with his family who has flown into New Jersey for the event, so we're saying it on his behalf.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikrai kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'acharta, yotanu kidashta, mikolim, v'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. L'chaim. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
All right, so we've brought in some light and we've brought in some sweetness. Let's bring in some community, yeah? So if there's anyone, you don't know their first name, up, introduce yourself, make a new friend. We are too small not to know everybody.
Could their name be Seth, though?
Yeah.
Is that a special
Yes,
trick
there'll be
tonight?
a quiz as to how many Seths
Will the
there
real
are here
Seth
tonight.
please stand up?
Yes, 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 yes. Actually, I think Eli and Mimi may be in the same class in Hebrew school. No, but he's in second. He's in second grade. Oh, Gabe. Sorry, because Gabe. Yes, they're in the same class. And I'll continue to call him Eli until his bar mitzvah. I don't know why. I don't know why. Yes, I don't know why. No, you know who I'm thinking, confusing me with is Ben. Gavin's younger brother is Eli. Yeah. All right. So let's evoke our better angels. Shalom Aleichem. What's that, page 24? Yes.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bochem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Marchuni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zeitchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
I'm going to invite us to put our finger in page 44 and turn to page 13. It is time to greet Shabbat with joy. Simcha, Yismechu. Yismechu Hashamayim.
Hashamayim.
Yismechu Hashamayim.
Hashamayim. Yismechu Hashamayim. V'tagel haaretz.
So we're just warming up. Yismechu Hashamayim.
Hashamayim.
Yismechu Hashamayim.
Hashamayim. Yismechu Hashamayim. V'tagel haaretz.
Yiram hayam.
Yehiram hayam. Yehiram hayam. Umelo. Yehiram hayam. Yehiram hayam. Yehiram hayam. Umelo.
Yismechu v'malachutecha.
Shomerei, shomerei, shomerei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat.
44.
Yismechu v'malachutecha. Shomerei, shomerei, shomerei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Bottom of 44.
Mekadeshei,
Mekadeshei Shvi Shabbat. Kulam yisve'u v'yitangu metuvecha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha. Shomerei, shomerei, shomerei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat.
from the top.
Yismechu v'malachutecha. Shomerei, shomerei, shomerei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat.
The Hashvi,
Ratzita bo,
Ratzita bo v'kiddushto
Shabbat.
Chemda,
Yamim Oto Karata Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha. Shomerei, shomerei, shomerei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha. Shomerei, shomerei, shomerei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat.
Zehel Maseh Bereshit Shabbat. Zehel Maseh Bereshit Shabbat.
Yismechu v'malachutecha. Shomerei, shomerei, shomerei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha. Shomerei, shomerei, shomerei Shabbat.
Can you taste it. V'koreoneg Shabbat. Oh, imagine beauty enveloping right before your eyes, standing at the door, waiting for the entrance. That light. L'chadodi, we welcome that beauty, that expansiveness. Shabbat, page 20, L'chadodi.
L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Hishmianu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem el tiferet v'litila. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Verse 2. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki hi mekor habaracha, Merosh mikedem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat hila. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Verse 5. Hitoreri, Ki va'orechu mi'ori, Uri, shir daberi, Kevod Adonai alayech nigla. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela.
Please rise if you're able and
rise.
face the door.
Boi v'shalom ha'teret bala, Gam b'simcha u'v'sola, Toch hamunei am segula, Boi chala, L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela.
We can be seated. We're going to go straight to page 30. It's a beautiful thing the way we track the sun, the moon, the stars, the seasons, and we find ourselves, despite being urban dwellers and urbane sophisticates, that we know how connected deeply we are to those cycles, those rhythms of nature. Page 30.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher bidbaro ma'ariv arabim, B'chokhma poteach sheharim, U'vitfuna mishaneh itim, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם, ברקיע כרצונו. יאי די 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 די, יאי די 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 די, יאי די 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 די, יאי די 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 די. בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור, מעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. אדוני צבאות שמו. יאי די 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 די, יאי די 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 די, יאי די 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 די, יאי די 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 די. אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מעריב הרבים. יאי די 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 די, מעריב הרבים.
32.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו, ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מסבך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לעוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תסרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Amen. Let's read together. Oh, on the English on page 37. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you're tired or you're rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Don't leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They're reminders to do all of my mitzvot so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. And all of these we hold to be true and trustworthy for us, that you alone are our God, and we are Israel, your people. And so it was that Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together along and raised their voices joyously as we do now. Mi chamocha, page 40.
Yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot oseh pele, nora tehilot oseh pele. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע לפני משה ומרים. זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. יאי די 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 די
ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב גאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Page 43 at the top.
Well, maybe we'll just
Yeah,
have
yeah,
piano.
no, go there. That's it. That's good. We're gonna hang with that.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Sing it out. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Ashkiva, let there be love and understanding among us. Ashkiva, let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Lehamidenu, shomreinu lechayim, ufros aleinu, sukat shlomecha. Ashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu,
Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. and friendship
be our shelter from life's storms. Just voices. Let there be love
and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
We rise, Yamida, just our voice, our inner voice, in conversation with eternity, where we start on 46 and just ask the words to flow.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi hagi tehilatecha. Oh, eternal God, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your glory. Oh, eternal God, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, El Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, V'mevii Geula Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham, Bezrat Sarah. Page 50. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav V'Hoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim B'Rofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayel Emunato Lishenei Afar. Michamocha Baal Gevurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Mamit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehallelujah selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
Please continue your prayer privately between pages 54 and 60, or the text of your heart, and be seated when you feel you're finished. Lach she'ata Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu le'olam va'ed. Tzorchenu v'nishenu tar l'tov ato nodeh lecha tzpeh tefiltecha. Al hayinu tzmudi v'yedecha mekudech v'balach. Yanisach שבכל יום עמנו ועוד תפתח בתולדך שבכל ערב ובוקר בצהריים. אתה כאילו קלו רחמך ומלכם כאילו שלום רב ישראל
Oh, say shalom bimrama. Huya say shalom aleinu. Ve'alko Yisrael. Ve'imru imaru amen. Yahaseh shalom. Yahaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu. Ve'alko Yisrael. Yahaseh shalom, Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yahaseh shalom, Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yahaseh shalom, Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yahaseh shalom, Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oh, say shalom bimrama. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru imaru amen.
Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Baruch atah Adonai, praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people. Hamevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. We always take the opportunity when we gather to pray for peace, for health, for healing. Peace too. Healing of the body, of the spirit, the psyche, self, relationship. So I invite us to turn to page 253 for the Mishaberach L'Cholim, and we'll call out the names. We'll let them reverberate throughout this room and out into the cosmos between stanzas.
Mishaberach avoteinu mikor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
This evening we're especially praying for Millie Rottenberg, Howard Simon, who has stuck out his cancer long enough to fly in for his grandson's bar mitzvah tomorrow morning. Gloria Berkowitz, Gittel Bat Chana, Bernice Portney, Beryl Ben Sima Vishmuel Leib, Steve Gellis, Shalom Avram Ben Golda Yeshayahu, Myrtle Cupid, Michael Rosenblum, Harav Miriam Yael Chaya Bat Sarah Yitzchak, Maxwell Zwain, Menachem Mendel Ben Yehudit Michael, Dora Monserrate, Jeff Galvani, Dr. Isoka Nosemwota, Alan Mentha, Alon Ben Yael, Marlon Williams, Eric Rivshin, Ian Gold, Tyler Stein, Chaim Tzvi Ben Moshe Hillel Ben Achama, Lisa Korn, Leah Razel Bat Malcha Label, Gabriel Medalitza, Gabriel Yehoshua Ben Yehuda Vachana, and Megan Howard Novak. And to these names we add
bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
I realize I don't have my regular book. I'm such a creature of habit. Yeah, I don't have my regular stuff. So I don't know if you follow this, but there was an interesting development, an uproar really, in the Orthodox Jewish lobby in Congress this week. As you may know, Congress is strongly considering making daylight savings time permanent throughout the U.S. It passed the Senate this week, and the bill is going to be going to the House of Representatives before it can go to, it's going to go for a vote there, and then we'll see what the president does. Of course, we may have heard this. The arguments for the change include helping children, enable children to play outdoors longer in the afternoon, reducing seasonal depression, even reducing traffic accidents, according to its supporters. And some of the special interests the Senate consulted include the airlines and broadcasters, probably others. That's who I read about. But apparently not the political groups representing Orthodox Jews who have sprung into action after the unusual unanimous Senate agreement. I mean, really? That's really? Exactly. That in and of itself is whatever. But a little explanation is in order. As a small synagogue, we are here, right? We only hold services on Shabbat, on some Shabbat and holiday services. And as a Reform synagogue, when our ritual leadership gathers to decide on our schedule of services, the question most in the minds of leadership is how best to serve our congregants, right? That's going to include what time is it that most people are going to be able to make it so that we can all gather as a community. That's going to include, what time of the day, what days of the week for some certain things. We're not going to hold Shabbat on a Tuesday, but you know what I mean, right? So this is what we're considering when we're thinking about when to hold services. But this would be very different from how a traditional synagogue would go about making this decision, because according to the Talmud, the 3 daily Jewish prayer services need to begin according to nature. Morning, afternoon, and evening services, and not according to what time our clocks say. But the system of Jewish time, the Jewish system of marking prayer, takes the number of total daylight hours on any given day and divides that number of daylight hours divided by 12. And that number, rather than 60 fixed minutes, that figure is what constitutes a halachic hour. Everybody follow that? Okay. So that means, objectively speaking, during the summer, an hour, a halachic hour, is going to be longer than 60 minutes. And during the winter, a halachic hour is shorter than 60 minutes. And yes, I know that this is a setup for a joke about Jewish time, Jewish being late, being early, staying too long, but that's not where I'm going with this. But some of the traditions around this, telling time and what we have to be sensitive to in time in our sources, our rabbinic sources, are really quite beautiful. For example, the morning Shema cannot be offered before natural light is such, there's enough natural light coming over the horizon that you can distinguish between the color blue and the color white. And the light also needs to be such that you should be able to recognize a friend, their face, from the distance of 4 cubits or 7 feet apart. And I wonder about that. Are those indicators of consciousness or awakenedness, or is it something about how close people have to be before we're able to start prayer? I don't know, but I find it really interesting. And another example is that we can only end Shabbat and make Havdalah no earlier than when we can count 3 stars in the sky. And Mariv, the prayer that we're doing right now, like tonight, is generally offered after sunset, right? We're praying about, rolling out the daylight and rolling in the darkness, and it kind of it's counterintuitive to be singing that and offering that and singing about the darkness when we still have sun streaming in the windows. Although technically you can offer it as early as 1/4 seasonal hours before sunset if you were interested. It's actually really quite complex math, astronomy, and physics, and considering the sunrise and sunset is different from day to day, every day, figuring out the time of day to start a prayer service on any given day is not as easy as posting that we start the service at 8 o'clock or 6:30 on First Fridays, right? It's the 20th century, of course, so there are many, many, many apps and charts and online directories to help us figure it out if we're counting that. Because there are many people that really take their prayer recitation at the proper time seriously. But you may be asking, why are the Orthodox lobbying against daylight savings time all year? Well, the answer is that with the proposed bill before Congress, some places in the United States, as you may have read, won't experience daylight until well after people are at work. So in some places in the United States, sunrise won't happen until close to 9:45 in the morning in the deepest winter days. More people than we probably realize actually take the obligation to come to synagogue to pray in a minyan 3 times a day very seriously, and they see it as an obligation. So I'm just curious, anybody here, raise your hand if you have ever worked in a place or you work in a place where there are people who are part of a daily minyan, who kind of disappear in the middle of the afternoon, or, So I know Tom does. Tom has an office space where, there's a time, and it's a fixed time, and they take that very seriously. It's especially important, for example, for those people who are saying Kaddish, for somebody who has lost a loved one and feels the responsibility for saying Kaddish 3 times a day for those 11 months. Now, I'm not arguing for or against this law, but I've been interested in the articles and thinking about how it actually might change everyday life as we know it, or not. And I'm wondering, really, kind of just about us, if you've been thinking about this and your reaction to the idea of changing the law, and whether you'd thought about that, and if you do actually have some ritual of any kind or some connection to the natural rhythm of times of either the week or the month or the moon or the seasons, and what that does, what this might or might not do to it. Anybody have thoughts on this? Yeah, Rob. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was actually looking at the map of the states, sort of, and it was color-coded, and it looked like if I was in Michigan, I'd go to the next time zone over, Central, because it was so dark. No, I wonder about that, like whether they'd want to switch time zones if with that. Yeah. 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 Any other? Yeah, Jill. Right, you an evening person, you a night person? You see, anybody, yeah, I'm the same way. It's like, I keep it as dark as you want in the morning because I'm never late. I want late at the end of the day. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Any other thoughts? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. It comes up much too early for me to be out of bed, but... Right, yeah. Yeah, walking in the dark in the morning and evening, some point, yeah. Huh. That's another Shabbos. So all jokes aside, there is such a thing as Jewish time. And as people who have walked this earth longer than anyone ever would have predicted, we take a longer view of time. Today is actually a special Shabbat. It's called Shabbat Parah. It's the first of 3 special Shabbatot before Passover. And like changing of the daylight savings time, that's our ancient alarm clock. This actually first Shabbat. It's like kind of ring, 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 ring. It's beckoning us with our liturgical cycle to beckon us to start our physical and our spiritual preparations for the ultimate arrival of spring. Our celebration of liberation, peoplehood, covenant. That's, of course, Passover. And that's how we set our clocks. Now, as a Reformed Jew, I really appreciate that we can start Shabbat and schedule our community time for maximum participation. On the other hand, I truly think Reformed Jews would benefit from a greater feeling of obligation to be present in Jewish communal life, despite St. Peter's ranking in the March Madness. I love that we have the freedom to create personal, meaningful Jewish expression, and yet I wish more of us appreciated the subtle spiritual symbols that permeate daily Jewish life. And personally, I always struggle with changing my clock on my microwave and the car. Those are 2 I never seem to be able to figure out how to do quickly. And I love, on the other hand, the extra hour, how that celebrates the coming of spring. While I hate losing the hour of sleep. I crave that sunshine in those dark winter afternoons, and I'm not a morning person. On the other hand, I love that our tradition has us connected to the seasons, the sun and the moon, and to the rhythms of light and darkness. We pattern our prayers by them, and so nature guides our yearnings. Nature demands our respect and that we acknowledge our deep connection to the earth and the rhythms of time. The message is that when we stay connected to the rhythms of nature, we're reminded that we are, at our very core, earthlings whose very being cannot be extricated from all life, human and otherwise, in this ongoing dance of interconnection. So however way we do it, whether it's with daylight savings time, 3 times a day prayer, community, let us all know that connection. Shabbat Shalom. And with that, it's time to announce the coming of the new month, which means that the new moon will be upon us. And so with that, we can turn to page 261 and amount. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu shetichadesh aleinu et hachodesh haba. Our God and God of our ancestors, may the new month bring us goodness and blessing. May we have a long life, a peaceful life of prosperity, a life exalted by love of Torah and reverence for the divine, a life in which the longings of our hearts are fulfilled for good. Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Yeh Bayom HaShabbat Kodesh Haba, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael L'tova, L'chaim u'shalom, for life and for peace. Give me an amen. L'parnasa tova u'livracha, for the ability to earn a good living and for blessing. V'nomar amen. We can rise for Aleinu on page 84. It's actually not. Just, you don't even need the text. Just repeat after me.
V'hashevota
El levavecha
el livavecha
ki Adonai
ki Adonai
hu ha'Elohim
hu ha'Elohim
v'hashevota
el
levavecha
livavecha
ki Adonai
ki Adonai
hu ha'Elohim
hu ha'Elohim
v'ne'emar
v'haya Adonai v'melech al kol ha'aretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo
If it is your custom to remain standing for the Mourner's Kaddish, I invite you to remain standing, otherwise be seated. This week we are in Shloshim for Kenneth J. Donenfeld. That's John Donenfeld's dad. He actually died yesterday, so we wish him and his family much comfort and condolences. And we are observing the yard site of Sheila Gaines, Betty Menkes, and Guy Mentha. Also want to point out, just acknowledge Madeleine Albright's death. Madeleine Albright didn't find out she was Jewish until she was in her 50s. And her parents, who fled Prague twice, first from the Nazis and then from the Soviets, hid not only that they were both Jewish and that so much of their immediate relatives perished in the Shoah. And she was kind of circumspect about that throughout her life. And I always wondered what kind of pain it would take to hide so much of who you are and where you come from your children. That, I don't know, that always sat with me. And I also got word that Dr. Elnardo Webster Sr. died this week, and he was a basketball star in St. Peter's and was also a speaker here at one of our MLK gatherings not too long ago, gave back to the and St. Peter community in a multiple of ways after his legendary basketball days were over. So anybody else who's observing a yard site or is in mourning want to say their name out loud? How many years? Say a couple sentences about her. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing it with us. The mourner's copy is on page 294. We're going to just skip the line, the indented line, about 5 lines down, because we're not a minion. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach eruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei dekudesha brichu, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran ve'alma ve'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
Oh, say shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen.
Seth, you feel like doing announcements? Please be seated. Feel like making announcements? Totally.
You know, seeing Rob and Jill here, I'm thinking about how next Friday, your granddaughter is part of the service that participating in, because it's kindergarten, first and second graders.
Same thing with.
So I'm hoping we'll see you again next Friday.
And same thing with Seth and his family.
And that's right.
Because
You've got a
Gabe is
second
also
grader,
in-
they've got a first grader. That's right.
Thanks. Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
We are now mask optional for those who have submitted documentation that they are fully vaccinated. Ushers and school personnel will be verifying people's vaccination status. Among entering the building, if you're not fully vaccinated, please remain masked. Join us tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. for Shabbat morning services in the bar mitzvah of Gabriel Kamener. Religious school will be in person this Sunday. The book club will meet next Thursday, March 31st at 8 p.m. to discuss Blond Lachig in the Belgian resistance. It does not mention it, More Marion, no. Blond Lachig in the Belgian resistance, Fried Heller speaks by our own More Marion. who will join us. Next Friday, following our First Friday family services, we will have our first Oneg Shabbat in over 2 years.
I
If
know.
you're interested in sponsoring an Oneg, please contact the office. Registration is now open for our in-person second night Seder that will take place Saturday, April 16th at 5:30 p.m., led by Rabbi Morit, in partnership with and at Congregation B'nai Jacob. Additional details can be found in the weekly, the April newsletter, and our website. Our next Hot Shabbat will be Saturday, April 23rd at 10:30 a.m. for singing, dancing, story time, and other age-appropriate activities. We expect to be live and in person this month. The location will be announced closer to the date. With the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine, we hope you will consider offering your support. We've assembled links to organizations that can provide aid to the people of Ukraine. You can link to that information through the weekly. Join the tech crew that live streams our services.
Yay, Seth.
Talk to Seth Lubin for details. Our food pantry is open on Wednesdays, and volunteers are urgently needed. Donations of food are gratefully accepted. Please try to either drop off or arrange for delivery of any donations on Wednesdays. And in light of recent events, we implore you to please be careful crossing the street. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you. And the only other thing that wasn't in there is that we're actually starting something new, a pre-neg, a wine and cheese pre-neg once a month. So it's not April because of Passover, but it's usually going to be the third Shabbat of the month, 7:15 wine and cheese before services. So celebrate being back together. We're going to close out with Ein Keloheinu on page 322. Yadadam bum 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 bum. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu. Yadadai, 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 na 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 na. Yadadai, na 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 na. Ein Kemoshienu, Mi Eloheinu, Mi Kadonenu, Mi Kemalkeinu. Yadadai, 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 na 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 na. Yadadai, na 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 na. Mi Kemoshienu, no de l'Eloheinu, no de l'Adonenu, no de l'Emalkeinu. Yadadai, 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 na 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 na. Yadadai, na 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 na. No de l'Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu. Yadadai, 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 na 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 na. Yadadai, na 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 na. Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu. Yadadai, 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 na 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 na. Yadadai, na 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 na. Atahu Moshienu. Yum pum pum pa ya da 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 da. Yum pa ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da da da. Ya da 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 da. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat Shalom. Usually people take off their mask when they're about to eat a little bit of challah. I'm not understanding. Okay. Yes, thank you. That's great. Na 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 na.
Thank you, Rabbi.